afternoon, everyone. My name is Samantha Samayoa, and I'm part of the training team here in the US. And today we're going to be covering one unit implant workflow along with the lock area tool. Any questions or any future webinars you would like us to cover or topics, please email us at medit.edu@medit.com. So let's go ahead and get started. Many of you guys today are new to digital dentistry and or implant workflows. So we're going to cover a few things. I am going to be improvising as well for a few things just because I don't have a real patient. That's okay. You guys will understand it. Let's get started on our Medit homepage on our Medit app. As you can see, I am under the case box tab on the left-hand side. I am going to create a new case. As you can see on the upper right-hand side, the blue tab that says new case, I'm going to go ahead and click there. And then we are going to click on the patient list button. It's a little button with a little microscope. At this point, we can either search for an existing patient by typing the name in, or we can add the new patient if it doesn't exist. So I actually have a patient that exists here, so I'm going to hit select, and I am going to register and scan. Once I click register and scan, this will take me to my prescription page or my RX. We all call it something different. On my model here, my implant tooth number is number 3. So as you can see on the right side, everything is grayed out. I cannot make a selection unless I select on the left side the tooth and or teeth number. So I'll go ahead and select tooth number 3. Now I can select a type of workflow, the method. So depending on the type of method or what you do in your day-to-day, you'll select it here. For me, my implant will be a screw type. What kind of material do I want my lab to use to fabricate this crown? And then the shade, if you know it. You can always come back and edit your prescription if need later on when you're done with the scanning. But for now, I'll select the shade because I know it. And then we're going to look down here where it says order list. We're going to confirm everything is correct. And if so, we'll save. One more thing I want to mention on the prescription page is if you need to write additional notes to your lab, you do have that option right here under memo and tags. If you click there, you can add additional notes to the lab. Once you save, it will be added onto your order. So let's go ahead and move on to the scan page. This will take us to our scan for clinics page. A few things I'm going to touch on. Let's say, for example, we do have a temporary crown. You like the bite, you like the shade, or you like the anatomy. Everything looks great with the temporary. We do have the option here. And as you can see, we have the stage management. It's a little clipboard with a pencil. If we click on that, I am able to add an additional scan for a pre-op. So I can scan this temporary crown if needed under our stage management page. All I need to do is hit the plus button, and my workflow preview will show an additional scan that has been added if needed. So I'll go ahead and remove that since I don't, but we'll click OK. And as you can see, we have the sequence of the opposing. We have the upper, which that's where our Emergence profile will be scanned. Then we have the scan body page, and then we also have the occlusion. So what is a scan body? So a scan body is an intraoral implant positioning transfer device. What we're used to doing is we're used to taking traditional impressions with coping and then shipping the bits and pieces with the impressions in a box to our lab. At this point, all you're going to need is a scan body And where do we get the scan bodies? So you would have to reach out to the manufacturer or the implant company that you usually work with and purchase scan bodies directly from them. A lot of them are autoclavable and reusable, and they all match depending on the implant that you're using and the size. Really easy to use. It's just a simple place in the patient's mouth, screw it in, and quickly scan. Let's go ahead and get started with the scanning. And I hope you guys watched my last webinar where we discussed proper scan strategy and the importance of it. So I'll go ahead and get started with my lower arch. We're going to start on the occlusal. And one push will activate that occlusal scan. I'm going to do a little wiggle. Because we're only doing a single tooth, I'm going to only focus on doing a quadrant. And we're going to go ahead and work our way to the buccal. Occlusal, and now buccal. Perfect. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to scan the upper arch. So at this point, we are going to imagine that we have a healing cap. Now, since I don't have a healing cap, I do have a little green paper. Imagine this little green paper is my healing cap. This is just so you get an idea of what this is going to look like when I'm scanning. And I'll go ahead and place that on. Now, the next step is to capture our patient's bite. We got the opposing, we have the upper with the healing cap on, and now we are going to go click on the bite. We're skipping the scan body for now. And a lot of these scans, doctors, staff, they can be done prior to the doctor even getting to the room. When the patient gets seated, you can do the upper, the lower, the bite, and then call the doctor in and let them know we're ready to remove the healing cap and scan the emergence profile and the scan body. But let's go ahead and get to the bite. So what you want to do is you want to place the scan tip on the buccal surface, have your patient bite down, and then turn the scanner on. Once the scanner's on, let it sit there for a few seconds and then slowly start waving it down and up. Perfect. We got our bite captured. Now that our bite is captured, there's a few things that I want to talk about when it comes to the bite. And this is for any workflow, not only the implant workflow, but if you ever come across a bite that doesn't come together, there could be many reasons why. One reason can be you did not capture enough gum tissue. You need at least 3 to 4 millimeters worth of gum tissue for reference, or you're just missing a lot of tooth structure. And that can cause your bite not to snap together because there's no reference points. So at this point, I can either delete this or delete the bite or what I got so far, go back to either the lower or the upper to collect more data. Okay. Or I can manually bring that bite together. So how do I manually bring my bite together? As you can see, we have this button on the very bottom of our page. It's a little square with a dot and then another little square with a dot. It's called manual alignment. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to show you how to bring the bite together manually. So we all know that this upper arch is our upper arch and then the lower arch, and then we have our bite, which is blue mousse. I love that they made it blue. We know that this matches to this, right? And we know that this this bicuspid matches this bicuspid. So at this point, what we want to do is add a dot on our blue moose, and we can do multiples. If you want to be more accurate, you can add more than one dot. But where you place those dots, you want to place them exactly on the actual scan. So number 1 there, number 2 here. Perfect. We're going to do the same thing to the bottom. We're going to match a dot here, and we'll match it exactly to the scan. There we go. All right. Now the next step is to go back to our Emergence profile page where our healing cap is. At this point, assistant calls the doctor. Hey, doctor, we're ready. We're going to scan the healing cap. And we have to prepare this area for the doctor. So what we're going to do is we're going to use one of our 3 trim tools. I prefer the brush tool. I'm very detailed, so I'm going to click on the brush tool. And if you notice, once I activate the brush tool, we have a few different sizes. We'll select one of the 3 sizes, your preference, to delete that area where my healing cap is. Oops. By the way, there is an undo button on the lower left-hand side. So if you made a mistake, you can always hit undo, lower left-hand side, right there. Let me just finish trimming my area. And with my right clicker, you can always rotate as well. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my brush trim tool. And at this point, we are going to remove that healing cap. And what we're going to do to capture that emergence profile is we need to start on the adjacent tooth. So the tooth behind it or the tooth in front of it, either or, it's going to give you a reference point to start on. Perfect. I'm going to make my way towards the other adjacent tooth, and then I am going to collect the rest of the data needed for my emergence profile. Perfect. Now, if you want to confirm that you do have indeed reliable data, we also can zoom in a little bit. On the right-hand side, you're going to see the little rainbow circle. That's your model display mode. You're going to click it until you get to the reliability map, which will turn it green. Anything in bright green, that is reliable data. If you notice that there's anything around your adjacent teeth or the emergence profile that can use a little bit more touch-up, you'll just turn on the scanner, activate it back on, and just go ahead and collect that data that is needed. And I feel pretty confident that this is a great scan. So the next step for me is to use our lock area tool. So what is the lock area tool? The lock area tool, here's an example. You remove the healing cap, the tissue underneath the healing cap. What happens to it in a matter of time? The healing cap holds the emergence profile in place, but when you remove it, it starts shrinking, collapsing. So by the time I get to my scan body page, more than likely, it will have been collapsed. So since the emergence profile has its own scan page, scan body has its own scan page, I'm going to lock it right away after scanning it. So here's the lock area tool. When I activate it, all I need to do is either use my brush tool to select the area that I just scanned, the emergence profile, or I can use the circle selection and or polyline. Either or will allow me to select the area I want to lock in. You won't only use this tool during implant workflows. Let's say you prep a tooth, the mesial is a bleeder. If I open my lock area tool and have it ready, by the time I finish scanning my patient, if I get that bleeding under control, quickly scan it, I can lock that area in, and then I can continue to scan the rest of my prep without having to worry about that bleeding mesial. So definitely you can use this for many reasons. But let's go ahead and lock in my Emergence profile. Some of you guys call them sulcus. I've heard that a few times, but here we go. Now, what if I accidentally locked in an area I did not want to lock? We can either hit the all button while deselection mode is on, clear it out, restart it. I'll use another type of selection mode. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and move on to our Scan Medit page. I'm going to close off the lock area tool. And one thing I did want to mention about the lock area tool, there's an additional way to deleting certain areas to rescan. You can also use a trim tool. If you want to touch up a certain area that you locked, you can trim away that area and rescan it if needed. Perfect. All right, let's move on to the scan body page. So I have my scan body. What you want to do is place your scan body in the patient's mouth. You want to secure it. And the technique to scanning the scan body is to start on the adjacent tooth. As soon as you start on that adjacent tooth, you're going to start going lingual. I apologize. You're going to go buccal. Work your way here to the buccal area and then start working your way up to the scan body occlusion. And then you're going to go to the lingual, the interproximals, and voila, we have our scan body page. Now, I will mention we do have our AI scan body matching library, where it can replace the scan body scan and pre-assign it depending on the location and where you assigned it to. So we have a library full of different manufacturers and different types of implants in our system that can easily match by just doing a quick search. So, and I will touch on the AI library and registering custom abutments. That will be on my next webinar with multiple implant sites and multiple lock area places. The final step here is to process your scan. So when I complete here, and that's the little clipboard with a check mark, you're going to select the type of processing phase you want to go with. I am going to click the processing phase, and once this is completely saved, it's going to take me to my prescription page. At this point, anything else that you need to edit on your prescription page, you see here, you can do so. Any additional notes you want to type in, the order list, if you need to touch up on the shade, change it, you can do so by clicking here, clicking on the shade area and changing the shade if needed. All we need to do is hit save. But as you can see up here on the upper right hand side, the scan is processing right now. So what we have is raw data that needs to be processed and compressed in order for the lab to receive this case. And at that point, once you hit the order, they will not only get the raw data, they will also get the process scans, the scan body scan, the emergence scan, and then the bites, along with all of your memos that you typed in and on top of the order list. So while we wait for the process, if you guys can start thinking of questions and emailing me at that email I recommended to send us earlier, it is Medit, EDU, at medit.com. My name is Samantha, and I will be responding to all of your emails and all of your questions or even recommendations. I will be responding to you guys in the next 24 to 48 hours. But we're almost there. We're about to get to the process phase. And once it's processed, I'm going to take you guys here to this file viewer. Right now, what we have here is raw data. As you can see, it's a little pixelated. Once the process is fully completed, you're going to see the difference between what's been processed and what it looks like when it is processed and your lab receives it. We're almost there. There we go. As you can see, it says now scan completed. So we have our raw data, and then we have process data. As you can see, it's nice and crisp and clean. It's been processed and it doesn't look pixelated anymore. I'm going to go ahead and bring back the raw data so you guys get an idea of how it looks like. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really appreciate the time you guys took this afternoon. We will be seeing each other soon, and I will be answering all of your questions, concerns, or recommendations by today. Thank you.